After all is said and done, and I know I am the one, I have waited here forever.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. How's everybody doing today? First and foremost, thank you for all being here. Greatly appreciate you all coming and hanging out. Also, shout outs to the RLCS for the retweet. You guys are awesome. If you guys have never been here before, we're going to kick things off. And I figured what better way to pretty much end the off season with a Rocket Talk. So, for those who have never been here before, this is Rocket Talk. I'm your host, Lawler. It's pretty much a podcast where we discuss imperative topics in the Rocket League community. For those that have never really watched before, it used to be called That's the Thing. We did a rebrand, and now Gibbs and I kind of partner with this. But we usually try to have a special guest or interview some certain players or something to get their opinions on these topics as well. And this one's a really important one. Try to do it on a weekly basis, but not always that possible. If you guys missed it, Gibbs did talk about this a little bit earlier this week, as well as Marky Duda expressed his thoughts on overtime on Wednesday. So there is a lot of insight that we are going to get. I'm going to be pulling from bits and pieces and everything. But the big one and the reason why you guys are all here, I had the chance to I put out a tweet from Kuxir asking him, I heard things going around like, hey man, I've heard that you had thoughts about like an ideal map or something in regards to a different map approach. He was nice enough to respond. He ended up messaging me earlier, and I got some thoughts from him, so I will be paraphrasing his thoughts and opinions just to give you guys kind of the insight from Cooks, because it is it's not the most unique approach of what I thought about, but the way he explains it and the reasoning why is something that I truly believe would probably be better, but it would definitely be something that needs to be play tested. So before we get into any of that, we've got 4 topics. The first thing is what brought this all apart. We're going to talk about the announcement that came out on the 24th of August from Psyonix about non-standard maps. We're then going to get into Cooksir's thoughts, opinions, paraphrase that, clean that up. We're then going to talk about map diversity as a whole, thoughts, ideas, and then community play testing. I did reach out to quite a few people about their thoughts and ideas in regards to what would be possible for non-standard maps. What kind of ideas should we implement? How should we implement them? So we'll wrap that down. If you guys do have any questions, I will do my absolute best to kind of keep up with chat and kind of interject your guys' thoughts and opinions and answer those kind of ad-lib. But the biggest one, and Stacks, I'd love to hear you, but this is not a sport. Rocket League is something very unique in both the real life aspect as well as the esports aspect. There's no other esport like Rocket League. There is no sport in the world that is Rocket League, because Rocket League is not a sport, it is a video game. So we need to stop comparing and having these comparisons to other things when it is its own unique variable. So clean slate on everything to start everything off. Basically, before we do anything as well, understand that everything that is being discussed here is and can be a generalization. If I do say anything, do not take it heavily one way or the other. There are exceptions to everything being said. Obviously, thoughts, opinions, ideas are my own with the interjection of the others that I have interviewed. That means that you guys also please give that. This will be exported to YouTube when it is all over. I would love to see thoughts and comments and have this be a regular conversation, as it is important to our scene. So please give feedback. But starting everything off, first and foremost, as you guys see on the right, Starbase Arc and Wasteland redesign standard arenas. August 24th, they have announced 2 major things. One, that non-standard arenas are no longer a part of competitive play. With that as well is in the autumn update, this will take a change, and competitive season 6 will be starting. Right now we're on season 5. There was no reset in the MMR. A lot of people are frustrated about that, but season 6 will be coming in roughly a couple months here. Wasteland will become Badlands, and Starbase will become Arctagon. You can play those in private matches and offline only. I assume they're going to put them in like a Rocket Labs rotation as well. But as of right now, they are going to be the same as current, but in the future they will be removed. Octagon and Underpass Lab Arenas are returning to the Rocket Lab playlist as well. Their reasoning behind this is, quote, "We see Rocket League as a digital sport. As such, we think standardization is important and necessary to provide a level playing field and foster consistent competition across all skill levels and events," unquote. I do agree that having a standardization is important, and most pro players are on this side. Very few are against the majority. I know Marky Duda is one of those very few. A lot of us casters feel that there should be some diversity in the map style, and we'll get into that reasoning later. But I understand it's important. It basically allows you to focus on one thing and one thing at hand. I know almost nobody plays it. It wasn't introduced, in my opinion, early enough. It needed to be something that was coinciding with the rank queue at the beginning, because it needs to be something that has to be pretty much forced, because people aren't going to want to change unless it's forced upon them. And part of the issue was because it's not in the general rotation, like you're only playing a non-standard map. In most circumstances, there are other times where I'll get them multiple times in a row, but 1 out of every 5, 6, 7 games roughly. So it's like you play this one style of map over and over and over again, and then all of a sudden you have this random one. You're like, what the hell is this? Like I didn't want this. I'm used to these other ones. And because it wasn't consistent enough, it wasn't worth it. And even talking, you heard Marky talk about it on Wednesday on Overtime. It's like, yo, I'm practicing for the RLCS. I want to practice my games, so I'm doing all this work trying to prepare for the RLCS, playing ranked or whatever it is, and then all of a sudden I get this other map that we're never going to play, and now I'm frustrated because this 5 minutes is a waste of time, and those 5 minutes is technically like 20 minutes or whatever it is if you're doing like scrims because of multiple play sets and all this other kind of stuff. So it was frustrating for a lot of people because they felt like they were wasting their time even bothering having to play this, despite what it could technically do for the game. So the benefit of going to a standard rule set, everything is consistent, whether you're bronze or whether you're a grand champ, whether you're pro, whatever it is. Everybody's practicing the same mechanics, working on the same style, the same arena, like everything is consistent in that aspect. And when it comes to the skill level of Rocket League, things are going to get better and better and better because of that. You saw it even in Season 1 compared to now. In Season 1, everything we saw was like, holy crap, this is insane. People are air dribbling. These shots are insane. But you look at it now and we're like, okay, this is terrible. Like, you compare Season 3 performance to Season 1, and you look at Season 1 and go, these guys are awful. I could compete at that level because of how quick the meta and everything has adapted. And the reason why a lot of people talk about why pro players should be the ones that help decide, okay, this is how the map should look, this is how non-standard should be formatted, these are our thoughts and opinions. A lot of people need to realize that the pro players are the ones that drive the scene, both in meta and how playstyles are performed. They're the ideal specimen when it comes to how to play the game because they are the pros. And when you're styling a map that is all completely physics-based, how the bounces should add up, how the game should actually play, why not take the best of the best and create something with their thought in mind? So there is a lot of the general audience that's like, why the hell would we ask them? Why is everything being considered for competitive? And part of the reason is because without competitive, the game is just for fun. And you've seen what happens to the playlist of Rumble, to the playlist of Drop Shot, to Hoops, to every other non-standard like Snow Day. They just don't get played. They really don't. They're really fun and exciting for like 2 weeks, and then they drop off and people go back to the standard. But if the non-standard was not a separate segregated situation, it was coinciding exactly with the standard maps, and there wasn't the separation of non-standard and standard, that wouldn't be an issue. The issue is they are treated as separate things, when in reality they should have been the same thing right at the beginning. And that's where it creates this issue, is that we had this mentality of these are normal, these are not. And that was part of the problem from the very beginning, like I stated. I know the guys at Cosmic, and the only reason why non-standard maps were technically added was because of people like Gibbs and Kronovi and Sad Jr. really pushing for it. And the devs have actually admitted that is a lot of the reason why the non-standard maps exist was simply because of the vets from SARP wanted them, because SARP was a very non-standard heavy arena-based game. The reason why they haven't done Stadium is simply because the physics don't work. The ball gets trapped behind the net, it's not exciting, but in no offense to the dev team, they're not that good. Like, the pro players can do things that none of them can. I mean, we jokingly challenge Art and a couple of other Sonics devs to me, Gibbs, and Mason, and even them were like, yeah, there's no way that's going to happen. We're going to get demolished. And no offense to me, Gibbs, and Mason, we are not the top echelon of play. So it's one of those situations where it's like they have play tested the maps, but I personally feel that they should have outside sources playtest the maps that they can put under like an NDA and state, okay, you can't share this information, you can test it, you can play on it, see how it goes. With Rocket Labs, they did show us that only a narrow set of arena designs would be well received, and no offense to the Rocket Lab maps, these are maps that you literally just like, okay, we developed it, good luck. And you put a unique variant of a map in ranked rotation without having it actually play tested by the public. I understand you guys have internal Q&A and you guys do play test it there to just make sure the physics and stuff line up and make sure things work in the most point. But having the community as a whole will give you better feedback. And rather than just saying, okay, screw it, it's gone, you can say, okay, these are the things that don't work. This is why we don't like it. Let's fix that. Prime example was Starbase. Starbase used to have sharper corners, but they rounded them. And the benefit of having those sharp angles was as soon as you hit the ball into the wall, it would immediately play back out in the mid. So wall play was less of a thing. And I love that. The ball was always in the middle. You could always set up midfield pass plays, and it really worked on internal pass plays. But as soon as people said, yo, the wall play isn't a thing, they rounded the corners, and now the ball hugs the wall, and it's a completely different situation. And that was kind of the direction I hoped that Rocket Lab maps would have went, is you have specific maps that remove an aspect of the game that focus on the heightened sense of something else. This map is better for dribbling because it's wider. Double goal is a prime example. The reason why double goal is one of the most well received, and I see that in chat, I love double goal. Easily my favorite Rocket Labs map. It's literally just a bigger game, but now you have the ability to go towards one net, okay, they cut and cheat for that side, and now you play back to the other one. It's wide open because you have someone cherry picking there. And it really heightens the sense of one play. Wall play was almost non-existent in double goal because it was so easily defended because of how wide the map was. You had to go so far across to make it happen. But situations like that still may be too extreme. 2 goals is a big deal. It changes so many things about the map. The widening of the map alone should have been just fine. But they took these maps that had such an abstract idea and tried to make these a thing, and it's almost baffling to think that they would have ever picked up. And it sucks because I really am an advocate for non-standard maps. I absolutely love non-standard maps. Competitive play, yeah, they can be frustrating, but I don't think we should remove them altogether just simply because they didn't work. I think the current maps are the problem, not non-standard as a whole. And I'll get into later on about the community playtesting and map diversity of things that we should probably do and have them play tested in order for us to get into that. But I don't want to get ahead of myself too much. There was a video that Gibbs and I did a follow-up on. Still on the first one. It says Saxon. I butchered your name, I'm sorry. But there was a video Gibbs and I did at the very beginning, about a month or two ago, about 5 changes Gibbs and I would like to see in Rocket League. And one of those things talked about allowing better custom creation of map. Right now, the current map development is pretty rough. I have a buddy that used to work for Epic Games, and the current map creator is pretty awful. I would like to see a map creator that is on the same level of excellence as the training pack creator, simply because the ability to play and pick and stuff like that is just easy. It's streamlined. It's super, super, super easy to use. And having just assets, kind of like Forge and Halo, where you can just pick and pull, throw it in, and then have all the hard stuff taken care of. But now everybody has the ability to really easily mess with this custom map kind of situation. Make those public, make them online options, have them voted on, and the top ones now have a database that the community can play on online with their friends, with everybody else. And you use that for your Q&A. Sinex now doesn't have to delegate resources and opinions and ideas, and the community can really make what they want. And they can be as crazy as a volleyball mode or something, even with like teleporters for the ball or what have you, or it can be little subtle tweaks about how the game is actually 3 goals, but they all have like it's a triangle shape or something. Like, it could be whatever we want, but the good ones are going to stick out because the community likes to play them. And now you get over this, is it good, is it not? And based upon if it's viable for competitive, that's what Sinex can decide. Based upon all these maps that have been created, the ones that are at the top, could this be used in a competitive aspect? Do the pro players like it? Is it a viable option? Will people actually pick it? If so, pulls it in, and good to go. The other thing this does is it makes it really exciting to play Rocket League every single day. Yo, let's try out this new map on stream. play with a bunch of your buddies, have a bunch of laughs. Okay, this is terrible, this is why. But now you get direct feedback from the community. They can tweak it. You can keep going. That would be, to a T, the absolute best thing for this game. Counter-Strike does it with even their overlay layout and their stats system. It's all an API. It'd be super cool. So ideally, that's what I would like to see. If you guys have not seen that video, I highly recommend looking out at it. If you do ! social in chat, that'll pull up my YouTube. Click that. It's one of the 5 changes I would like to see video. It's a really, really good situation I would like to see elaborated on. It's an option. It's very difficult to implement. It's a lot of development that goes into that, as we saw with the training pack, but it would be cool. Dread Pirate Roberts, also, what is up? I love his story with Ross Holmgren. If you guys don't know it, go check that out as well. So, as an overall opinion, I get it. I know a vast majority of players dislike the non-standard map simply because they put thousands of hours into a standard map, and the predictability allows them to improve upon certain touches and bounces, and you know it. If you are trying to present an esport, especially to a large audience and a very broad audience, with us going to NBC and all that other kind of stuff, you have to go with the majority, which you guys know I am not a part of. With everyone playing on one style of arena, you will continue to see the skill ceilings go to new heights. We've seen that in the meta change from Season 1 to 2 to 3. Expect to see something crazy again in Season 4. Ceiling shots are becoming more and more prevalent. I mean, Karma and Mystic were playing duos, and they hit a ceiling pinch pass to a ceiling touch reset. Like, what? Apparently that's a thing now. So good luck to people trying to compete with them. The issue, though, that I have with it, and I'll get into that next with Kuxir's thoughts, is play is becoming a little bit stale. If you guys watched the Season 3 Grand Finals, between Northern Gaming, now Envious, and Mockit, as an analyst, I can say I really appreciate the pure skill that's going on in the game. The touches were on point. The pass plays were absolutely pinnacle. The rotations were clean. The game was really fast-paced. But the really exciting stuff, the air dribbles, the double touches, the wall carries, all that kind of stuff just doesn't exist because the players have gotten so good at shutting that stuff down. And as for a very casual audience, people that are watching for the first time on TV or tuning into RLCS for the first time, those really hype goals are what draw people in. It's really, really exciting. And it's difficult to go away from that. But it's happening. I mean, the ability for someone to spider clear off the back wall and it covers full field just removes threat. So, to be that type of pressure and make those crisp touches with minimal mistakes is pretty damn astounding. Doesn't mean it's most entertaining for the viewer, but people want that crazy high-flying stuff that is risky. And the only time that really does happen is if a team realizes, okay, it's been 3 minutes and no one's scored. We're going to double commit on this and send the house simply because we want to create an opportunity, even though it is risky and probably not worth it. Because of that, non-standards maps, I think I had a chance to take that high skill ceiling and level it up a little bit. If you have a map that removes wall play, you now have players focusing on ground dribbling more, and you're going to see some crazy dribbles or back passes or more touches that are precise. I just think the current non-standard maps weren't the way to go about it, and there's still option for improvement. I'm not saying I have the answers, but thoughts and opinions from you guys in chat, obviously, or comments in YouTube after this is all done are always appreciated. I would love for this, people, talk about it. Be about it, okay? Thanks, Maz. Greatly appreciate it, man. All right. Second thing. The thing that you guys are probably all here for. A couple weeks ago, and by a couple weeks, I mean last week. Sorry, time goes by fast. I tweeted out to Kuxir, and I said, hey, I've heard mentions. If you guys don't know, Kuxir has quietly, or to people closer by, mentioned his ideal map. And I'm like, you know what? Let's talk about that. It's part of the reason why this whole thing exists, with the non-standard map existing. And then I also said, any non-pros, I would love to hear your thoughts and opinions. Kuxir was generous enough to reach out. I asked him if I could use this information. He has not responded, so I will paraphrase general ideas and concepts. Assuming he was willing to talk to me means that he's willing to express this information openly. Kuxir, if not, please let me know. I will delete the VOD and get rid of everything and remove this. But I it's one of those things that we want to kick off the end of the off season right before play-ins. Also, play-ins, guys, are this weekend. Make sure you watch them on twitch.tv/Rocket League. We're finding our RLCS top 8 teams and our RLRS top 8 teams. It's going to be sick. So, Kuxir's thoughts. Overall, as a whole, we are on topic number 2. I will do the thing for you guys to make it easier. We are here. Okay. So, Kuxir and I had a conversation. I interviewed him indirectly, more as a informal kind of conversation about, yo, I heard this stuff was going on. What are your thoughts? What do you think about as the scene as a whole? So this is paraphrased. I'm going to summarize it. It was a big conversation. If you guys do not follow Kuxir at Kuxir97, go hit him up. He is the legend of Rocket League. Probably if you ever have the chance to sit and talk to Kuxir, he has a very unique mindset about the game. Always a different perspective. And is always thinking, like, he changes his camera settings like once an hour, I feel. It's insane. So, Kuxir. He has stated that basically he feels that 3v3 is getting to a point where it's less strategic and less about the thought process and the mental game behind the game, and it's just about positioning. Everybody has become very, very fast in the game. And there's actually no reason to manage that 100 boost or try to actually read the play. People are going to go for the ball as fast as they can, and you have to go as fast as you can, and whoever gets there first wins. Kuxir has basically mentioned, and when he stayed at Quinn's house after Gold Rush, that he purposely will mentally recognize where is the ball, what is the fastest way to get to the ball, that is the route I am taking. And that's all that matters to him. And it shows. Both ends of the map, he said, are also too close. There is really no play to create in order to take the ball to the other side. And the way that he's saying this is, if the ball is in your opponent's territory and it gets cleared to the middle, happens instantaneous because of how good people have gotten now on the back wall, like I mentioned earlier. As soon as that ball goes out into the midfield, it's one of those situations where someone is either up in the air ready to contest it, someone has already jumped off the sidewall, as we saw Devo do many times at the finals, or you have someone on the very end of the pitch willing to jump up and contest that. All three sides of the field can be contested immediately simply because of how short the ball has become, and a lot of this, as Shice just stated, is because of how good backboard defense has become. That wasn't a thing in Season 1 and Season 2. It's the reason why Northern Gaming got known for backboard plays, is because it was something that was easily exploitable and nobody knew how to defend it. People got better, people go up on the backboard previously to the ball even being hit there, and now it's gone. So that's become an issue because those spider clears can cover full field, and that pressure is now instantly relieved unless it's contested in the midfield, and that's just constant shutting down the clear. And that's pretty much what Rocket League has become, is shutting down the clear in the midfield until they are boost starved and they can't clear it out, and then you get a goal because they can't make saves because offense beats defense. It happens. Both of the maps are very close, like I stated, and then I compared it to him in the aspect of the relation to soccer or football, depending on where you're from. Normally a large clear in football will bounce at least a couple times before it settles in front of the net, usually rough around the 18. Usually a striker is up there, or a forward is moving up to trap the ball, play it inside, make a back pass it to one of his teammates, or cut off the goalie and take a shot. The issue with Rocket League is that just happens with an instant redirect. Someone's usually up there in time after a clear to jump up, hit it, and shoot it back in. And it's just it's a quick 1-2 situation. It happens almost instantaneous. And there's really no formal play to it. There's no thought process in that. It's just clear the ball, jump up, hit the ball under the net. And that's it. And Kuxir mentioned along the lines of, why don't we have a longer field that is a little bit wider? A longer field would make it so there is punishment for aggression. If I am contesting at the midfield and a big clear goes over us and we make a mistake, that ball is going to settle in front of the net rather than just bouncing directly into the corner or into the wall and back out into the middle. Think about a big clear from a goalkeeper in soccer where they have a long clear and it settles roughly about 3/4 to 4/5 of the field. It bounces a couple times and either goalie comes up and takes a risky play, a defender is there to contest it, or someone is on offense able to make a trap, a flick over the top, and make a beautiful highlight play. And all these situations are created simply because the field is a little bit longer. If you have the field a little bit wider, you now have more ground play, 50-50s, time to make decisions about, is it more important to pinch on a 50-50? Should I read a route like a ground bounce? Is this a random bounce that I have to try to effectively try to master? Like, what's going on in this field of play that I now need to make a calculated decision about rather than just hit the ball that way? And that doesn't really happen. Shadow, I kind of agree to a higher ceiling, but at the same time, I like the concept of when it hits the ceiling, it also plays it back down into the field of play. Ceiling touches and ceiling bounces when the balls hit off are still difficult to read. People have gotten better at them, but it just changes the trajectory, and I kind of like that. It'd be something I definitely would want to play test if we did. If we did raise the ceiling literally, it'd be interesting. It would be interesting. Look at all these comparisons to sports all of a sudden. Yeah, I'm comparing it to a sport because if we are going to treat it as a digital sport, like they stated they wanted to, we may need to make adjustments. It's different right now, and that's why your theory is irrelevant. Stacks. You facetious turd. All right. So, Kuxir stated that because not many strategies work consistently, and when a random value is affecting a game, random bounces, possible to read, pinch on a 50-50, all this stuff you can't predict unless you're very low ping, which we did see in their game against Selfless, where the ball played out into the middle. That low ping did make a difference. It gave him an extra half a second to shoot it to bring him into overtime. So low ping does make a huge difference in this game. Basically, no decisions are being made. It is just a matter of going really, really fast, make sure your positioning is on point, clear the ball. He equates this then as well to 1v1 and 2v2. We saw a lot of 2v2 with the Universal Open. In 1v1 and 2v2, because there is less people on the field, there is also a lot more space on the field, and that's why making the field bigger and wider would also help that. I don't think we shouldn't add more players. We should just make the map itself bigger. Maybe if we make it really big, you can see a 4v4 maybe happen, and that then changes everything. The amount of players on the field would completely change the concept because you're going to have more boost. You're going to have to find a way to make pass plays different. You may also start to see dedicated roles where a guy is purposely only on defense. People who are only sitting at the midfield. People who wait at the half field line to strike on a ball. You may see that as a difference. Kuxir then also goes on to state that the reason behind it is you can actually decide what's your best option when you have the ball. Number one, is my teammate behind me? Number two, should I push it forward since I have half of the boost or wait for him to challenge in order to create space? Very prevalent in ones is a moment where your opponent has the ball and you're in net. Do you challenge him to force him to make a flick or a touch before it gets to your net, or do you just back up in your net to give yourself space and be able to have time to challenge the ball because he has to shoot it eventually? Situations like that. Or number three, should I just let him go for that aerial since his teammate has no boost? And you'll have to just waste the ball's positioning and possession. Depending on what you want to do in that kind of aspect and how that's played is why ones and twos is very exciting to watch. You still get high intensity plays. You have space to make opportunities happen. It's just not cramped. But the strategy and the actual perfection that goes on into threes is less. It's more, but there's less room for error. Like everything is pinpoint because there's usually someone there to make a mistake happen. These situations in ones and twos are what make the game very fun and very, very strategic. The ability in the sense of if you watch Squishy play twos as compared to threes, you see what he can do in the air. Ceiling dribble to a half flip cancel mid-air to score a goal. Never would happen in threes because there's going to be people in net willing to shut that down and contest him in the air. Twos, he has space. Only two people to worry about. I personally feel like a 3v3 would be like this. I feel like 3v3 would be like this if we actually had more space for every car on the field. Make it bigger, make it wider, and that's why Kuxir agrees. Make it a little bit longer, make it a little bit wider. You're going to see more ground play. You're going to see more time to make decisions. The reason why a lot of people like Turtle is because he's a slow thought, methodical player. Mystic is the same way. They're willing to slow down the ball, make physical decisions on how they want to move it. There was a play that we saw, I think it was in league play. No, it was at it was DreamHack Summer in Sweden, where Mystic was up in his back right corner, had to clear the ball. Two defenders come to contest him. He brings it up the wall, doesn't touch it, brings it right back down the wall, But as soon as he sees those two players contest him in the air, he hits the ball out to the middle. The third guy comes up for an aerial and misses it, and now they have a 3v0 counterattack because of all Mystic was doing. He physically and decisively was like, I need to make a play here. This is what I'm going to do, and this is why, and it's going to work out. Making a bigger field, a wider field, gives you space to make those decisions because they're not going to be contested immediately. You have time to trap the ball, think about what's happening, and then make a play afterwards. That is Kuxir's argument, and I 100% agree with it. I think it would be fantastic, but I don't think it should just be an all or nothing. It needs to be play tested by pros and almost every different style of play. We need multiple teams, multiple play styles to test it out to figure out if it's worthwhile. Okay? So as a whole, basically, I think a longer map would be ideal. Slightly wider might be good. However, it might create too much of a struggle even for long-time players, since they will feel lost in a larger field. It is going to be a different play style, different field of play. Everybody has become so used to the way the ball bounces and the way that touches happen, and when you change these core mechanics, that also makes everybody adapt as well, and that's why non-standard has kind of been frowned upon. The length will give every player a purpose, and every position will no matter have strategy or choice implemented. Kuxir states, for example, they might clear the ball, but if they have no teammate to follow, we'll have possession for a longer time. Same as deciding if going for an aerial or not as well because of boost management. Decision making is what we want. It makes people actually play to their fullest. You saw what decision making can be done in the grand finals of season 3, and it was really exciting to watch and see how like Devo single-handedly was like, I'm going to purposely put myself out of position to make this play, and if it works out, I'm going to be a god. If not, so be it. I've got two players behind me to make the mistake happen and be care. So that is Kuxir's thoughts. Interesting stuff, but the overall thing is he wants a wider field possibly and a little bit longer. He wants the ability to have choices and thought process go into the plays that are being made, and the field is too small for that because people are getting contested or trapped immediately. So interesting stuff from Kuxir there. On to the next topic, map diversity as a whole. Before I get into that, though, as well, I talked to Pashy. Pashy is super against it for the same reason. He wants consistency in touches and bounces. Marky was pretty much the only one who differed. He likes people having to adapt and change. He thinks that people should be able to read bounces and touches, and I kind of agree to that, even though, like, Starbase was weird because it had extra walls and balls were played out into the middle. But you should know how the ball plays off the wall. Just put yourself in a positioning to it, and it takes a little bit of time to... People would hate a larger field. Arguments against the UFC at a high level, but seems to be ramps force you down, it seems. Well, yeah, halfway. That's because it had ramps. The issue with the ramps was the fact that you were changing elevation. You couldn't just drive and you're good. They had a sharp incline like so. So as soon as you hit them, you would bounce off. You had to jump perfectly and land on it, and it stops your momentum. If the map was just wider, so what? The ramps themselves were the problem. They weren't curved. They weren't a natural change. I mean, look at like Cosmic. Cosmic basically has a built-in defender. It's a really long map, but a lot of players actually really like Cosmic. The ramps made it so you didn't really have to defend. It was a very defensive-heavy map for that reason. The goals weren't big enough. They changed that. Goals could actually probably be a little bit bigger even. The ramps were smoothed out, so it rolls a little bit better. Appreciate it, Street Spirit. Hope you had a good time, man. But Cosmic overall, a lot of people do like. And it's a prime example. Obviously, it still needs some tweaking, but it is a really long map. It's a little bit wider than normal maps. Wall play is pretty consistent. It's just a matter of people need to play test it and give actual feedback and have them tweak it more than once. So I like Cosmic. I like Double Goal. But I think small tweaks are the way to go, not these large ones where it's like, yo, we're going to add extra walls or we're going to add ramps and make the ceiling bigger and all this other kind of stuff. Because Neo Tokyo, I love Neo Tokyo, the original one, but it It was not for casual players. A lot of people felt lost. They just didn't feel impactful in their gameplay because those ramps just slowed everything down. I think those ramps were a mistake. They could have been cleaned up, like have a ramp that leads to the wall rather than like a sharp cut plateau and then to the wall. I don't know. Something that would have to be play tested, like I stated. So on to map diversity. If we did have map diversity, and this is kind of stuff where I want your guys' feedback as well, what ideas would actually be plausible? The big ones that I talked about with people. Number one, is this it? Yeah. So map one, boost on the wall or the air. So a lot of people have talked about if you do make a different size map, ways to counter that is you're going to have a bigger map, so you're going to need more boost. And there's been thoughts of if we put boost in a certain spot, it needs to be one, risky. It needs to be something that if you're adding boost to airplay, it has to be something that is a risk that you're going for. You're putting yourself out of position for it. But still can be gotten easily enough. Number two, it has to have like a reward base to it. Like there needs to be a balance of risk and reward. If you look on the top left where it is yellow in the corner boost, the 100 boosts, something like that where it's directly above in that corner, but 100 boost up there, or maybe like even a 50 boost might be an option as well. There is a lot of corner play where people are playing it into the corner so it bounces into the middle, but the ability to play it up into that wall, jump off and pass it inside and also get boost could be something that is also super overpowered. You're telling me I can rotate out, use boost to get up in the air and play it inside and also still get another 50 boost on top of that? That's stuff that would have to be play tested. And that's kind of where the play test stuff comes into mind, is any minor tweak that you make to a map is going to greatly change for the pro level scene because they will find a way to abuse it. And finding that equal balance between this is useful but is also risky is super difficult. I don't even know how one would go about even determining that kind of information. That could be option two. Like Mutated Ape stated, you could put it all the way on the ceiling in the middle of the map. Very direct center of the map, all the way on the ceiling. Super risky to go for, but if you're good enough, you could boost up there, get it, jump, reset, and put yourself back in position. Someone who's coming off the midfield could ride up the ceiling, go up, grab it. You know, it's still going to put them out of position, but is it worth the reward to move upfield if the other two side boosts are gone on defense? There's certain situations like that that have to be thought about. Other options have been the goal itself. We can make the goal smaller, whether it be horizontally or vertically. You could make it bigger. You could make it smaller. You could change the shape of it. Make it so you can't score in the middle of it. You have to score on the outsides. Or the opposite. You can't score on the outsides. You have to shoot in the exact middle. Issue with that is you got to then think about, okay, if you're making the goal size bigger, smaller, defensive wise, is it too easy to defend? Is it too hard to defend? Like there's so many factors that go into it because it changes every minute thing. Change the angle of the goal would be an option. So you have to cover the back end post a little bit more or something like that, giving people an opportunity. Elevate the goal, put it above where it is now. Put the goal on the floor. Imagine that. All these people going from the air to the ground. Imagine it's no longer a ground pinch. You're scoring just like you do on drop shot. Maybe something like that. The four corner walls on Starbase are too inconsistent to read. I disagree with that. If you hit it hard enough, it'll play back mid. It's pretty straightforward. And then the other one we talked about a little bit earlier is raising the ceiling itself. If you raise the ceiling itself, it will sail further. It becomes more of a lofted ball rather than hitting the ceiling and playing back in. I like both concepts. I know we talked about that a little bit earlier in chat. I like the concept of the ball hitting the ceiling and playing back into the field quickly. Like for example, imagine there's a 50-50 midfield and the ball just pinches and goes straight up. If it was a little bit higher, it's not going to hit down to the ground as hard. So it more settles in the midfield waiting for someone to come in and contest it. That could be an option. We could even lower the ceiling so you see less airplay and it's more grounded. I mean, you see that in the training mode. I don't know how many of you did training, but in training they put you like in a pipe like this, and the ball just can't touch the ground or touch it always hits off the ceiling, goes back into play. Situations like that are something to consider. PRL, thank you for the host, by the way. Things like that are something that I would really like to playtest, and I think that goes back to that original point I made with having a custom map editor rather than just a training pack, but a map editor, kind of like Forge and Halo, where you can pick and piece together certain things. You're going to get really fun, cool custom game modes and physics editing, but also with competitive map changes. You could really see people really take advantage of the small tweaks I would like to see. Whether it be a skinnier map, a fatter map, longer, shorter. But that stuff needs to be playtested. People are going to find out, if you do 3v3 on hoops, it just doesn't work. It's too small. And if we know that it's too short, maybe it's still too short, even on the standard size. A dome ceiling would be kind of cool. I actually really like that idea. That'd be really interesting to see. If you want to get really wacky with it, you could put, like I said, a teleporter on the ceiling. So where if it hits the ceiling, it shoots out the side instead, or so, I don't know. There's tons of things that we can mess with. Obviously, those are the things that are going to completely change the game if you get into really unique mutator kind of stuff. But, Eric, prime example, if you do a shorter ceiling, longer, really big ground play, that would be interesting. Certain things like that are stuff that I think this map editor kind of concept would really work with. But it would be interesting to see. I would really love to see that. So that really segues well into the last topic and the thing that I was talking about altogether. And I kind of beat around early, which is community playtesting. So if you guys were late for that, this is the kind of thing I would like to see. So the right way I think to go about all of this is I understand where the majority of players are coming from. They want consistency in play. When everything comes down to a specific detail, the walls being a certain way, finding consistency in a physics-based game is absolutely huge, and I understand the decision that they're going through with it, but I don't think we should give up on it. I think we're going to eventually get to a point where play becomes boring. You're even starting to see that in Season 3 Grand Finals a little bit. And map diversity is an easy way for us to change that up, as long as it's play tested and done correctly, rather than just, we made a map, it's in ranked. Let us know what you think. I don't think ranked should be the standard on how we test maps. I think it should either be done behind the scenes with pros in a specific test server. I think a public test server would be fantastic for Rocket League, where it allows people to play on it. You download a different client, you test the crap out of the new update, they tweak it live, and then they put it into place. And now you don't have weird pinches or clipping on walls and all that other kind of stuff, because it's already been fixed out. We already got everybody working on it. Plus, that's a ton amount of hype, right before patch dates. You say, yo, test server's live for this week, patch drops next week. Test out all the bugs, make sure everything's great. You got increased drop rates for new items, whatever it is, and you go. I think it would be super cool. I think it'd be a really cool way to show off exclusive things that may not be made just yet, and it's a good way to tease and create hype for Psionics. I think it'd be awesome. I think a test server would be super. I think it'd be super cool. Markey, as I stated, I can't really say what his quote was, but I'll try to paraphrase. He says, rejoice to everybody who doesn't like non-standard maps. No longer will you be demoralized by your own poo-ness in the face of learning something new. Who likes variety, am I right? So, basically states that people should be able to adapt. Variety would be cool. It adds uniqueness. That is also coming from a SARP vet where unique maps were a standard. But for me, as I've stated, I ideally like to see non-standard maps. I think the lack of staleness in play would be interesting. I think we need to have pros like Chrome and others. What's up, Rob? Playtest maps, or even create maps with the pros in mind. Get a board of players. Get a committee that's willing to give you direct feedback and help create maps. Test them. Talk about what will work, what won't work. Shut down ideas, promote ideas, whatever it is. But I think the best way would be a map editor. The community has been a big factor in everything that we decide to do and the changes that we make. And the ability to have a map editor, I think, would be the perfect solution. I really do. make it as simple as possible, just like how easily the training pack is to use, but allow you to adjust physics, allow you to adjust map size, creativity in that aspect, pull and pick and do whatever you need to. But I know Cynix, this is your baby. You do not like outside help in that aspect. You are afraid to give up some of that freedom. But I think if you really want the future of this game to succeed, opening up to a full-blown map editor would probably be the biggest push I could see helping. I would love to just boot up Rocket League, go to a map editor like database, and just, yo, I'm gonna try this one out today. Yo, this one has bubbles in it that you get stuck in when you drive and hit them in the air. Or this one has mines, like underwater mines, or who knows, man. Like, possibilities are endless. It would be crazy. Esports playlists would be great as well, Cloudfield. Do you think a bit longer and wider map would help move the skill ceiling in the game up? Yes. If it is just standard maps they are right now, I can see the game becoming very boring and falling out over time. And I agree. I mentioned that Season 3 Grand Finals were pretty lackluster when it comes to highlight plays and really exciting stuff. I, as an analyst, appreciate what was going on. It was very quick. Everybody was on point. It was to a T perfect play from what we had ever seen. And it was unbelievable watching what those guys were capable of without making mistakes. The issue is as a standard viewer, as someone that is a very big casual, if I came and watched that, I want to see the air dribbles, the crazy double touches, and that shot's just getting shut down too easy. If you make the map wider and longer, you're going to see more ground play, more decision making. This is what Kuxir talked about, is you're going to see people have to make actual logical decisions about, okay, this person I know doesn't have boost, I can beat them to the wall and bring it outside. I can pass it instead because they can beat me to it. I can go for an air dribble because of this. And those decisions that are being made now make people as a whole better. It'd be interesting to see, but yes, I do agree with Kuxir's thought process. If you make it a little bit longer, a little bit wider, what the ideal size is, I do not know. But it's definitely going to be different because those touches on the wall you're going to see not play out as far as what you're used to. So you're going to have to cheat in a little bit more. It does change every aspect of the game when you tweak anything like that. Even moving boosts changes things. So you have to be very careful. It has to be tested heavily before it gets released as an official thing. You can release it to the public, but not in ranked or anywhere else. But it needs to be tested heavily, very, very heavily. By lower tier, by higher tier, by people that watch the game for a living. Cynix, what's up? I will gladly test any maps you want me to, whether publicly or privately. I can keep it secret. It's fine. But it'd be cool. But biggest thing, the bigger and the wider player base you have testing them, not on a serious note, that are just enjoying it to enjoy it, I think you're going to get better feedback. So, cool stuff all together in that aspect. But, I mean, you see everybody kind of talk about it. You see Gibbs and Low5 even mentioning it too. Gibbs pushed for non-standard maps a long time. You know, Low5, I miss your streams. I'm glad I get to see you on weekends. But he agrees that things could be implemented better and there's still time for it. So, I hope we don't give up for it. I hope we keep it going. I really do. So, with that, that is the end of the stream. I will do Q&A after, but for everybody that is watching online or anything, please give feedback, drop comment on feedback and comment. That was singular. Feedbacks, please, from everybody. Comments anywhere possible. I would love to get any discussion going. If you guys want me to, I can post this on Reddit to make sure we have a conversation going there. But for everybody, I greatly appreciate you guys all being here and listening. But I'm going to play a quick little outro and stuff, and then we'll be back for Q&A. So thank you.
Carry the world upon your shoulders.